There's lots of unique things to explore when you're in Japan.
This is our third trip to Japan, and every time we come here, we discover new, quirky, interesting things that we didn't see the first time. And if you're planning a trip here, pay attention, because this stuff is kind of cool, huh?
Really interesting.
We've got a list of, I don't know, 10 or 15 things here that we've seen that are unique, quirky, interesting. Some things here will actually help you while you're travelling as well. Let's go with number one. What's number one? I don't know. I've got the list.
If you're a smoker, it's important to note that you can't just walk around the streets smoking in Japan. Most of the restaurants and cafes and hotels actually have designated smoking rooms, and in the bigger cities you find smoking rooms outdoors on the streets near big intersections and crossings. So that's the place to have your ciggy.
Even in restaurants and cafes and stuff, which was bizarre to us, you go into these places, because it's cold where we are, we're in winter at the moment here, you go in, you're wearing all sort of get up, the heaters are going, and then you go in there and there's a little room inside there that people go and smoke in.
But you can't smell it at all from inside the restaurant.
No, it works for those who like to punch a dab.
So it's New Year's Day today. This afternoon we come back to the hotel for a little nana nap, and while we were sitting in bed, the whole room started rocking. Like, it felt like we were on the train. It was like the building was swaying.
Aerial footage shows widespread damage in some of the areas hardest hit from the series of quakes that struck Japan on New Year's Day.
And it went for, how long do you reckon it went for?
Oh, good minute.
Yeah.
Maybe 90 seconds. And look out the window and you could see the edge of our building lined up with the edge of the next building, and they were doing this. It was like...
And you said the power lines were shaking. And
I went out in the balcony and you can see the power lines down here, and they're all moving around, and the louver curtains, the blinds on the building next to us were doing all this. Full-on earthquake. Yeah.
So Shane here went into survival mode, thank goodness, good in a crisis.
I ran out the door and left her.
He's jumped out of bed throwing on clothes and saying, where are the passports, and should we ring the hotel reception and find out if we're safe? And I'm like, maybe we should stand in the bathroom, but I still had the dressing gown on, and I was concerned about making sure I grabbed the toiletries bag with my skincare in it.
Yeah, I'm worried about get phones, get passports so we can actually get home, and she's worried about
I need my face oil. But anyway, jokes aside, we are fine. It was a pretty major tsunami in a place... Earthquake.
No tsunami yet.
Not yet, but there is tsunami warnings. Was it Ishikawa?
Yeah,
something.
It's about 500 k's from where we are.
Yeah.
And so, we were absolutely safe. We've never experienced anything like that before.
Something that's really huge in Japan is called gachapon. They're like these little novelty lucky dip vending machines. Each one will have a different theme. It might be a collectible character. And people put about 100 yen in them, and you get out a little ball with a toy, kind of like a Kinder Surprise, really.
Yeah.
And people collect them. Adults, kids, tourists, they are everywhere.
It's not 100 yen. I reckon some of the cheaper ones were 100 yen. Most of the ones that we've seen are 400 yen, so about $4. And some have been 1,000 yen, so like a $10 one. And they're giving away... It's a little bit like a gumball machine, but you don't know what you're going to get. You usually get one of 3 or 4 things. It's like a cross between a gumball machine and a lucky dip, I guess. What do you reckon?
Yep.
But it's a big thing here. When all the pandemic and stuff was happening, we saw on the news that they were putting these things into shopping centres and stuff because you got more return for a square metre of store coverage, like your floor coverage in a shop. So you see these things now out the front of shops, you see them in shops, there's whole stores that are dedicated just to these things. And you think about that from a business model, you need a couple of staff to restock them now and then, you need a machine to change notes for coins. There's not even electricity in these things, it's all mechanical. You put your coins in, you turn the knob and something comes out. And they just go nuts for it, don't they?
Do you have a favourite to collect?
Favorite part is animation gachapon.
like gachapon?
Ah.
Did you know about gachapon before you came to Japan?
No, I didn't. I found this shop and another one near the big street. And I entered. We got a couple of prices. If Mama, prendi I premi. A couple of prices. One of Kirby. Another one was of One Piece. And the other one was of the Battle Cats, which is a mobile game.
Are you going to take lots of them home with you?
Yes.
Yes?
This one, and maybe if there's something interesting, something from here, yes.
Why do you like gachapon?
Why do you like Japan?
No, gachapon. You like gachapon.
Why?
Why?
Because it's unique. So unique and so cute.
Cute.
Yeah.
How many do you have?
めっちゃ持ってるじゃん。確かに。何個持ってる？10個ぐらい持ってる私。She has 10. I have 5.
The main ways of getting around Japan is basically by train. There's 4 different sorts of trains. There's the bullet trains that you all know of. There's the JR lines, which are just regular commuter trains. There's the subways and trams. And your JR pass is what we got. You would need, and that goes for a certain amount of days, either 7 days or 14 days or more. And it's only tourists that can get it. If you live in Japan, you can't get it. They've got to buy individual tickets. So work out what your itinerary is and work out what sort of coverage your JR pass is going to get. Then you'll work out if getting one is cheaper or not than buying individual tickets. What does a JR pass cover?
JR Pass covers probably, I'd say, 90% of the trains. It's going to cover all of the JR lines. It's going to cover the majority of the bullet trains. What it doesn't cover is the subway lines, but it's really cheap to travel around the subway lines. You can just either buy a single-day subway ticket or pay for tickets from stop to stop as you go. And it doesn't cover trams. We've only done one lot of trams. That was in Osaka.
Hiroshima.
That was in Hiroshima, but that was actually really easy too, the trams. And of course there are buses, but on this trip we haven't needed buses. They're more for regional areas and if you're heading to the snow.
Oh, there are buses around here, and some of the buses that are here are also covered by your JR pass. In fact, there's a ferry that goes to, what was the island we went to?
Miyajima Island.
Yep, where the Tory Gate was, or one of the Tory Gates I wanted to photograph. And there's a ferry that goes to that island, and that's covered by your JR pass. That's not the way we went. We went a quicker route and cost a little bit more money, but you can get there just on your JR pass. So it's worth investigating everywhere you go and what your JR pass covers. Whilst you use the subways, and you will use subways, if you're not staying just in Tokyo, you're almost certainly going to use the subway at some point. And and even with the JR trains, if you're just buying individual tickets and you go too far, because the exit gates, you get off the train, you can walk around the station until there's an exit gate. That's when you use your pass to get out. If you go too far, you need to adjust what you've paid for. If you
haven't paid for that correct distance.
Yeah. So if you've gone from this point to this point, that's what you've paid for, but you actually end up going to here instead. When you get to here, you go to a machine. It's called a fare adjustment machine. You throw your ticket in there. It'll tell you how much more you've got to pay, and
super easy.
You're done.
Gives you the correct ticket then.
Yeah.
Also worth noting with the bullet trains is even though your JR pass will cover the majority of the bullet trains, you do need to reserve seats on those. And particularly if you're travelling with a decent sized suitcase, you need to make sure that reservation includes luggage.
Yeah. That pretty much anything above carry-on. So if you've got a bag that's bigger than a carry-on bag for your aircraft, you need to book a luggage space. And it goes at one end of the carriage behind your seat, and you'll get those 2 seats generally. There's only 4 seats or 5 seats on the train that have that on each carriage, I think. So it's definitely worth booking it. We've seen some cases where people haven't booked it and they're trying to squeeze their bloody bag in between their knees for a 4-hour train ride, stuff that.
Especially if you're travelling at peak times, like we were travelling over the New Year period, and it was actually quite hard to get reservations on the bullet trains in that time. So don't leave it to the last minute. That's an important tip. So we've just caught the tram to Hiroshima Station on our way to Osaka for this afternoon's trip. and we thought it would be a good time to reserve our seats on the next lot of trains that we've got to catch. Really glad that we did this now, because we didn't really factor in that being New Year's there are a lot of people travelling, so we were actually a bit limited with what trains and had room for us to get a seat, especially with luggage. As we were lining up in this office over here, the ticket office, a lovely lady came up to us, obviously spotted that we were Westerners, and asked if she could help us. Her English was immaculate, and she made the whole experience so easy. We did find that the trains to travel on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day were pretty much fully booked, but she found solutions for us, booked a couple of seats, and then once we did that, we popped out and booked the rest of our journey on the ticketing machines. So really feel like Shane's absolutely got his head around how to navigate our way around Tokyo, and I can just sit back and relax and enjoy the ride. This is really unusual in Japan. You do not see rubbish. It's illegal to litter. So seeing rubbish on the street just never happens. However, it's really hard to find rubbish bins in Japan, which is probably why this was left here. If you're eating at a street food vendor like we were yesterday at Miyajima Island, it was really hard to find rubbish bins there, but what we eventually worked out was that you just give your rubbish back to the street vendor once you've finished your food, and they'll dispose of it for you.
Witches' hats are a thing here. They just like
appear everywhere.
They're just different. But you walk, there's one right here, and I've got no idea what that one's for, but it's there. It's like just on the edge of the path. You see them kind of everywhere. Like there's one just here. Like, why is that there? No idea why that's there, but it's there.
They use them for bollards and markers and fencing off areas, everything. It's kind of crazy.
Different coloured ones, little poles on top of them to keep them separate. Some have ropes, some have a stack of 2 like this little stack here, some have stacks of 6.
If in doubt, witches' hats.
Yeah, that's what it's like. If you don't want someone to do something, or you want someone to look at something,
witches' hats.
Put a witch's hat. If you didn't get around by train or taxis or little tiny cars, you would absolutely go by push bikes, and there are that many push bikes here in Japan. It's ridiculous. There are so many, and they range from all sorts. Like, you go through the shops, and some of them are pretty cool, eh? Like, a lot of them have got the battery packs in there, so I guess they charge them up and
electric
free wheel the electric bike sort of thing. But you've got like kid carriers on the back, kid carriers on the front.
But they ride them mostly on the footpaths. They don't really ride the push bikes on the roads, and there's very few actual like cyclists doing it for exercise.
Yeah, like the guys in Lycra and stuff. We've seen 2, I think.
Yeah, not very many.
Yeah, nobody wears a bike helmet. Haven't seen one at all, except for the 2 guys on the racing bikes. No one else wears helmets. And the other thing is that all the bikes are registered here. We were walking through a town somewhere, I can't remember, it might have been in Tokyo, and there was a parking inspector giving tickets to push bikes. And we're like, how the hell do they chase them up if they don't pay them? Well, they actually have registration stickers on the bikes. So all these people in Australia who say you can't register bikes, well, bullshit, you can.
Yeah.
Because they're all registered here. I don't know how much they pay or how much they charge. I don't know, but they're all registered.
And there are designated bike parks and parking stations for the bicycles everywhere.
Everywhere.
And then obviously there's some areas where you're not allowed to park your bike, and those are the ones that are receiving tickets. Most people would probably know that Japan is really well known for its vending machines, and that's not an understatement. They are on every street corner. Most of them contain drinks, both hot and cold.
Blue underneath the cans, they're all cold. All the red stuff underneath here, all the red signs, they're all hot.
But in these vending machines you can also get things like food, like hot soup, you can get ice creams, you can get snacks, chips, that sort of thing. Beer, cigarettes, vapes. We found a funny one yesterday that was sort of like an air freshener patch to stick on your mask,
yeah.
I guess, to make the air taste different.
Yeah.
All sorts. There are even vending machine parks. We haven't made it to one of them this trip, but keep an eye out. Lots of cool things in vending machines.
This being our third trip here, we were watching YouTube videos leading up to the trip again, and there seems to be a lot more movement of or content getting out there about SUICA cards. Is that how you say it? SUICA cards? IC cards. They're charge cards. Basically, it's like a little credit card that you put money into, or an app on your phone that you put money into, and you use that to buy drinks at a vending machine, use it for your train tickets, use it for all that sort of stuff, and basically it just charges your card until the limit or the amount that's on your card is diminished, and then you recharge it. And we weren't sure if we were going to need one. We haven't used one in the last two trips, and we didn't need one this time either, because Japan is very much a cash-based society. You can use your credit cards in probably half the places, like your FPOS. I don't even know about FPOS, but certainly your credit card you can. But there's plenty of places that will only take cash.
Especially food, restaurants.
Yeah. So what we generally do is go to the ATMs, and in 7-Elevens, in all the 7-Elevens there's an ATM. Go there, pull some money out, keep it in your wallet, and then just pay with everything with cash. And we've never found ourselves in a situation where we needed to have one of these cards. It just doesn't happen.
And they do pretty much give you receipts or offer you receipts for everything. So if it's for work purposes, you'll have records.
So that's Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, Hiroshima. We haven't used those cards or needed those cards ever. We've used cash for everything. You're going to come to Japan for one of two things, I reckon. You're going to come here for skiing. If you're from Australia, that is. You're going to come here for skiing, or you're going to come here for food. And the food here is just nuts. I would say if you're a Westerner and you're coming here, Be
prepared to eat Japanese food.
Eat Japanese food. No one does Japanese food better than the Japanese.
In Japan, we've tasted lots of great food. We've had sushi, sashimi, okonomiyaki, takoyaki, yakitori, ramen, udon, and it's all been really good. The main thing is, don't be afraid to try the little places that might only seat, 10 people. They might not look fancy, but those places are where we've had the best food. Also, look for the ones that have a lineup of Japanese people. That's usually a sure bet that it's going to be good food. But we've definitely enjoyed places where you might have to go down to a basement level, up 2 flights of stairs. It might feel a little bit dingy and strange, but it's really good food, and the service is excellent. Normally your drinks are coming to you before you've even picked what food you're going to order.
Look at the places that have just got some Japanese writing and a doorway or stairs going down to a basement. Pull out your Google Translate, take a photo of that sucker, see what it says, and then go, sod it, I'm going to go down to the basement. If I don't get eaten, I'm going to eat something pretty cool. And every time we've done that, it's been sensational. I can't think of one that
this trip's been a real winner for that.
It's been really, really good. There are a couple of apps that are going to make your life 1,000% easier when you're travelling in a place like Japan. One of them is Google Translate. The Translate on the Apple phones, on the iPhones, is mediocre, hit and miss at best. The best thing that we've seen so far is Google Translate. You can type. We communicate with so many people here via this. In the last 2 trips that we've had here, I've learned enough Japanese to ask, do you speak English? Most people here speak a little bit of English, and you can get through generally. But when you're trying to do more complicated things like working out, I don't want this in my dish or something like that, you can type it in and it'll translate to kanji characters for you. Ripper idea. Along with that Google Translate, you can use it to type in things, and it's very handy. We were looking for some Nurofen sort of thing, like for headaches, and we went to a chemist and we couldn't find anything there because it's all written in kanji characters. So we would go to the pharmacist and type in what we wanted, and they would understand that and they'd go and find it for us, and it worked out really well. The other thing is with Google Translate, you can actually use the camera on the phone, regardless of what phone you have, and you can look at things like menus and look at things like directions and maps, like the trains, and it will show you in English what it actually is. So if you're going somewhere, you don't understand what that kanji characters are, just shine your phone up to it, hit the button, and it translates it for you. It's absolutely amazing. It's changed the way we travel here.
So all over Japan, there's these stores called Don Quixote. When we first heard about it, we were looking for a donkey hotel, but it's Don Quixote, and we've just been in the Megadon. And it's how many floors? 7 floors or something?
The theme song is sensational. How the people in those shops don't go postal and just go nuts on a daily basis is beyond me, because the song is so freaking annoying.
I've had the song stuck in my head for the last 3 nights. I wake up with it still playing. It's an earworm, that's for sure.
For sure. The place is called Don Quixote.
Yes.
And they sell
everything.
Look, I'm going to say one and you say something else, and I'll say we'll go for like 10. So I'll give you 5 and she'll give you 5. We haven't rehearsed this at all. Kit Kats.
Liquor.
Sex toys.
Premium handbags.
Dried shrimp on a stick.
Children's toys.
Oh, damn it. Suitcases.
Toe socks.
Cigarettes.
Vapes.
Everything you could possibly think of is in these sorts of stores.
They're about 7 stories high.
Yep.
And there's no real order to what you'll find on any store. You think you've done all of the chocolates and the lollies, and then 2 floors up you find all the specialty Kit Kats, and they're right next to the sex toys, which are right next to the children's Lego.
It was just weird. So I was looking at some like, I've been looking for these little cars, like a particular car that we have at home, and I'm looking for this in the sex toys right next door, and I'm like, there's sex toys right there and there's kids toys right here. There's something really wrong with that.
They are covered with a small curtain.
That kids can just walk under because they're only like this high. Bit weird.
But we've done pretty much all of our souvenir shopping at these stores. They're great to find unique Japanese novelties. All sorts of things. They're good quality as well. So definitely check out the Don Quixote stores. So something that when we were travelling with Tom and Carly earlier in our trip, Carly was really keen to go to some pet cafes or animal cafes, and I was kind of like, we've got a farm full of animals. But anyway, on the first day that we were there together, we found a cat cafe, and so Carly and I headed on in, and I've got to tell you, for someone who lives on a farm, has 2 cats and a whole lot of animals, I really enjoyed the cat cafe. I think especially for people living in a highly populated, really loud, intense environment, these animal cafes are just so peaceful and tranquil, and I could really appreciate how nice it was to walk into a relaxing space with cats that seem really well looked after, really happy and content and loving the attention. And I tell you what, the animal cafes were probably one of the favourite things that I enjoyed in Japan. We did a cat cafe, we did a hedgehog cafe. That was super cool. You can hold them, you can feed them mealy worms. They love the mealy worms. There are all sorts of other animal cafes here, like otters and foxes and owls. We weren't able to make it to those. Some of them were closed over the New Year period. But I really rate the animal cafes, a really great experience, and completely understand why people who live in a place like this would enjoy the peacefulness.
I will say, when I first heard about the pet cafes, I was a bit like, in my head, I'm like, how much do the animals like that? But I will say that after visiting the zoo, I would rather be in a cat cafe.
Yeah,
for sure.
100%. Yeah.
One thing that I don't think I've ever seen anyone talk about it really on a YouTube video is when you go to every different prefecture in Japan, all the manhole covers are different, and they're not like at home you might get like Ganawara Shire or
grid.
Logan Shire or something and just checkers all over it. These are like full-on artistic. The ones that we saw in Osaka, they had like fire engines, and it was painted as well.
Yeah, they were really beautiful.
And it wasn't just 1 or 2, they were everywhere. And when we went to the snow last time, all the ones up in the snow at Hakuba, they're all painted as well.
And they might have illustrations of, say, a famous shrine from that area, or like a fire truck. So as you're wandering the streets, look down, because the manhole covers are really cool. So guys, while we're by no means experts in Japan or travelling Japan, we've done it a few times now. We've seen quite a large range of areas. So if you've got any questions that you think might help you plan your trip, pop them in the comments and we'll help wherever we can.